This lecture is on warranties. I'm Ron Graber, the instructor of this course, and warranties are a part of the performance, or part of the promises made in a contract. So there are three kinds of warranties. Title warranty, which is basically you get guaranteed. You don't have. It doesn't have to be written into the written warranty. It's implied as a matter of law that you get good title to any goods that you buy, unless somebody disclaims them. So basically, if you go to a sheriff's sale where they're selling items that they confiscated from some criminal which have been stolen, there might be somebody out there who has a good claim to that item you bought at the sheriff's sale. But these are confiscated goods that the sheriff will hold for a certain period of time and then sell with and they'll tell you at that time that they have limitations, that you are subject to superior claims to it. Somebody who can prove that that is their television set. Usually that's done by having the serial number in some sort of documentation. And if they can prove it, nowadays also sometimes people put their identification numbers on there. Sometimes Social Security number, other numbers are sometimes used to identify them, so they can say, well, this is mine because here's the identification of it. And so you're taking subject to that kind of thing. So you get good title unless somebody says otherwise. Whoever you're selling, who's already selling it, has to inform you that it's not a good title. Also, good title means that you're taking it free of any liens, that there's nobody who has a claim. Say it was a car you bought from a person on the street. You saw an ad in the newspaper, you went over, and the guy was standing out in front of a house selling this car. And, basically, unless he tells you about a lien, you can assume that there is no lien. Now, actually, when you exchange titles, you should go down to the bureau and have it checked out there. There are also that there are no infringements, that's selling this particular item is not going to be an infringement of copyright or patent. And this comes into play. Let's say you were a restaurant and you bought some game that kids could play, like the old games you used to find in there. Pac-Man and Pac-Woman and all those games. If you bought one of those machines, you would be taking it free of any liens and free of any infringements, and so that's the kind of thing that you would get. Otherwise, if in fact it's a violation of copyright and patents, they could stop you from using it, and maybe even confiscate the good. So these title warranties are important. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about two other categories of warranties. One is the express warranty, which you get with a lot of sale goods with the express warranties, and the other is the implied warranties. So basically, express warranties take different forms. You can get an oral express warranty, where the person makes some statement as to the quality of the goods, or you could get a written one where the statement is made as to the goods quality and uses in a written document, which is obviously, I always think it's superior. The old saying is, a written contract, an oral contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. That's an oxymoron, right? So, so you can get a written warranty, and sometimes you find it on the box itself written. I've got one here, and I'll show you that one. Seem to have misplaced it now. Basically, that warranty is oftentimes there are limitations. One reason to give a written warranty is to limit some of the implied warranties. So, and so we need that. Now, there's also with express warranties, sometimes you're shown a sample. So you're buying carpeting, and you buy some carpeting. Before you buy the carpet, they show you a swatch of carpets. So you go through and you look at all these swatches of carpet, and you pick from them what it is you want. and then later you complain because you don't like the way it looks. So there was a hotel, a large hotel that had bought uh, some carpeting, and this carpeting, when you walked across it, looked as if it was dirty. That is, the footprints would be seen, sort of the shadows left behind by the footprints on this PAL carpeting. And they didn't realize that PAL carpeting was a rather new thing then, and they bought it and they had it installed in their huge hotel. And then they wanted to uh, get out of the contract, and they basically couldn't do so because they had picked it. The warranty, it just simply had to match the sample, and it was consistent with the sample that they had given them. That's the way this thing works. And so if you are picking from a sample, know that you need to know what you're looking at, and you need to be able to evaluate what it is, and not necessarily put any faith in words that they say. Oftentimes they would maybe give you a written warranty and say that no, this is your warranty, and that the product will conform to the sample that you've been shown. And now the other thing is that sometimes they'll have a model. So if they're selling elevators, they may have an actual model rigged up to show you how the elevator would move. And again, you need to know what you're buying in those situations, so that you can't necessarily rely upon the salesman to do anything other than sell his product. And he has to be truthful, but since you're seeing a model, you can't complain if the elevator conforms to the model that you were shown. Okay, so conformity to the models. Now the other thing is that you not only have these express warranties, and we're going to talk a little more about those in a minute, but before I get to that, the third kind of warranty that we cover would be implied warranties. Implied warranties are of two types: warranty of merchantability, where the goods are good for are fit for their ordinary purposes and of average quality. So you're buying a car. How much mileage do you expect to get from a Cadillac? You would maybe expect to get less mileage from a Cadillac, but you would expect maybe to get a better ride from a Cadillac than you would from, say, a Volkswagen. You'd maybe get more mileage from a Volkswagen Beetle or than you would from the Cadillac. Do they still make Beetles? I'm not sure. Anyway, so merchantability relates to that, and implied warranty of a particular purpose relates to going into some specialty store that deals in special kind of items where you do need the advice of a salesman to make sure, and the salesman holds himself out as being able to advise you as to the product that you need for whatever you're using it for. So you go into a sporting goods store, you want to buy skis. Well, the salesman's got to ask you, what kind of skis do you want? Do you want snow skis or do you want water skis? They're totally different. And if he doesn't do that, he's not doing his job. And if he gives you the wrong skis, you can take them back and get your money back. But also, if you have an accident using those skis, you would be able to sue that store for giving you the wrong skis because they weren't fit for the purposes for which they were bought. You have to explain to them why you're buying them. You said you're using them. You're going skiing on a mountain. You're going snow skiing, and he has to know what kind of skis you need to give you the right skis. So that one would be the warranty of particular purpose. So you have the warranty of merchantability where it's fit for ordinary purposes, and then you have a warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. And that's where you're buying a special good sold by a specialty store that specializes in supplying that. People do it all the time. You go to a car parts store to buy a filter for your car, or some part for your car that you need to replace. You're an amateur mechanic, so you go in there and you ask them, you say, I want this part, and they have to supply you the right one. If they give you the wrong one again, and if there's an accident or there's damage, you could collect for the damage to your car, or even for in an accident. If it was something that would cause an accident, you would be able to collect money for that. So anyway, let's go to the next slide here. Okay, express warranties arise The goods must conform to affirmations or promises of fact made. The affirmations of promise of fact made. So if they make any promises about the quality of the goods or what the goods can do, those can be treated as a warranty, whether they're oral or written. However, most written contracts will state that they are the sole warranty that you get, and there are no other warranties beyond the face of this document, and or any oral statements are not to be viewed by you as being a warranty. So they'll say that in there. One of the reasons to issue a warranty is to limit the liability of the seller. So they can be very effective in saying, well, I'm not responsible for that. We told you, this is what we told you the product would do. And if it, if it had qualities, if it didn't hold up to these qualities that you say it should have, that's not one of the qualities that we maybe said that it would be fit for. So, you're buying a street motorcycle to drive on the streets, whereas what you wanted was really a dirt bike. You should tell them that you want a dirt bike in there. And if you're dealing with a store and they're holding themselves out as being able to supply you with the right one, they should give you one. But if you go in and you make the selection not telling them what it is that you want, you say, I just want to buy a motorcycle, but you're tending to use it on a dirt trail, it may not be safe on a dirt trail. So they're not going to be responsible for that unless you tell them. And there are car dealerships and motorcycle dealerships, I think, are not necessarily seen as being necessarily always specialty stores. They're selling vehicles to be used on the streets generally. Okay, and they'll have sections where, and they will give you advice. If they say, yeah, this is a street machine, you should be able to count on that. And so it should have roll bars or whatever that protect you. It should be properly equipped. Also, any description of the goods. So orally, they could describe the goods to you, or they could tell you what the description of the goods in the written warranty. There could be a written warranty on the box that you're buying. So if the written warranty says that it will be rust-proof, then you could count on it being rust-proof, and that might be on a box, or it might be on a separate paper, or it might be in the sales contract. You'll want to hold on to these written warranties. So some of them can be quite long. So for instance, if you're buying shingles on a house, the warranties might be 30 years or more, maybe 40 years, I think. It goes up 40 years, 20, 25, 30, maybe 40. But if it starts leaking after that period of time, or you're told that it's become, before that period of time, that it's defective, you could apply for some sort of, usually you get some sort of rebate on it. That is, that they will not give you the full purchase price. Let's say you used it for 20 years and it's a 25-year warranty, then it's reasonable to say that you got 80% of the use of that product. Is that right? Yeah, it's 80%, yeah. Anyway, so description of good. Any sample or model shown or sent to the buyer or lessee. So shown, sometimes they send it to you in the mail, or if you sometimes you get these products in the mail that they're trying to sell, like it's a new shampoo, okay, and you try it out, everything's fine. Then when you go to the store and you buy some of the shampoo there, and you take it home, you use the shampoo, and you get this allergic reaction that you didn't have with the sample. Well, you had kept the sample. You can test the content of the sample to make sure that that is the same as the content that they sold you. So they couldn't send you a very good sample and then sell you an inferior product that way. And that would be a warranty. So that would be, express warranty. Now, express warranties are important. They will take precedence over implied warranties. I imagine there's kind of, for consumers, there's kind of a twin aspect to that. One aspect is that it protects the seller from being liable for things that he doesn't think he should be held liable for, and you should realize that you can't. And on the other hand, it does require him usually to have the product conform to these samples and these models that he shows you. If the buyer lessee has been induced to buy or lease and relies upon any of the above, then it becomes part of the basis of the bargain. So this is a contractual matter. You'll want to argue that the reason you bought this is because you wanted a 5-year warranty. You could I could have bought another product somewhere else and gotten a lower warranty. Or I liked all the things you were guaranteeing, and that's why I chose your product. I paid more to get that, and so you want to argue that because that's the basis upon which these written warranties rest, and actually even other warranties. So, so let's go to the next slide. Oops. Opinion versus fact. Now, one of the things about it is that when you're talking to a salesman, oftentimes he will make statements which are really statements of opinion. You can't rely upon statements of opinion. So, as a smart seller, you need to be able to distinguish between fact and what would be otherwise opinion. So, one kind of opinion would be puffery. These are excellent, brakes. They're in good condition. Well, that may be just a statement of puffery. What is good condition? Now you might argue there's some sort of warranty there, but that would be up for the jury to decide. Fact: these are anti-lock brakes. They are factory inspected. It's more of a factual statement, so you have much more to ground on there. They told you very specific things, whereas with the puffery, they're just making claims like this is excellent, this is superior, or it's good. What does that mean? It could mean different things to different people. Somebody tells you that you can get a good ride out of this car. It's a very comfortable car to be riding in. That's just puffery. On the other hand, if he goes into detail on the construction of the seats and the design, how it was manufactured by a certain company to fit that, and maybe they cite certain consumer books that maybe praise the car or the motorcycle for its comfort, or its bike, or anything, the couch. Those would be statements of fact. The fact that this was rated highly in this magazine that rates these things for consumers. How about this? Statements of a salesman: this gold ring is of good quality. That again would be puffery. That would be a statement of opinion, whereas a statement of an expert: this gold ring is 18 karat. That's a fact. It either is 18 karat or it's not 18 karat. It's 25 karat. It's either 25 karat or it's not 25 karat. 25 karat, I think, would be pure gold. So you're probably not going to be buying a ring that's 25 karat. But it's not uncommon to find people with 18 karat gold rings. Salesman predicts these shingles will last a lifetime. Well, how long is a lifetime? If you're sentenced to a prison, it's like 20 years, but you can't apply that to this. You want to know, maybe their ad in the newspaper stated, and the newspaper would be a kind of written warranty also, right? Except it can be excluded by another written warranty that they hand to you in the store. So before you buy it, they give you the warranty, this written warranty that says that there are no warranties beyond the face of this document. So you got to watch for that. It can be an ad can be a warranty. Okay, these shingles will last 30 years. Usually, a shingle manufacturer will have different grades of shingles, and so they need to, in their ad, state which of their shingles they're talking about. Oftentimes, you might see them give you a range. Our shingles last from 30 to 20 years. Get a high quality one, maybe get a 30-year guarantee. So anyway, so opinion versus fact, you have to keep that in mind. Warranty of merchantability. What does this say? Of course, this is one of the implied warranties. The warranty of merchantability implies that the goods are fit for ordinary purposes and are of average quality. This basically creates reasonable expectations in the buyer. So you have a reasonable expectations of how the car will perform. You don't expect to you know, it's got to be a car in the class. If you're buying an economy car, then you can expect to get better mileage. And you've got only like 12 miles per gallon from an economy car, you would have a right to feel, well, that's not right. However, you know, in the sale of cars, either oftentimes, if you're buying a used car, you oftentimes don't get any kind of warranty or a very limited warranty. It's maybe a year and some 10,000 miles or something at most. And you know, on a new car though, you could maybe get a better warranty. And, you know, and to some extent, it can be a selling point. Some manufacturers will give you a better warranty. On the other hand, there are a lot of things that are sold that are not with a warranty. Houses are generally not sold with any sort of warranty. So one of the things you do when you're buying a house is you have it inspected by a person who is trained to inspect houses, so a building inspector. And he goes in and he checks everything, he checks the shingles, he checks all the appliances, he checks the flooring, he checks the structure up and down, and he looks into everything. When I bought my first house, our inspector found in the back, we had not seen it, a cracked window. It was not broken through, it was cracked though. And so we told the seller that if they expected us to go through with this house, they needed to fix that thing. Because usually when you buy houses, there is a statement that it will be in good condition. And so in a sense, there is a kind of warranty. But now we're talking about warranty of implied warranties. Implied warranties are not written warranties. So it implies the goods are fit for ordinary purposes and are of average quality. Okay, whatever that is. Now, so you see, these are very, very generalized terms because it's meant to apply across a wide range of products. And so you cannot necessarily have a very specific term on some of these things. So fit for ordinary purposes and of average quality. That's warranty of merchantability. And like I said, that creates certain reasonable expectations, which is one of the things that we'll look at when we talk about remedies, that what you're entitled to oftentimes is that your reasonable expectations are met when you've entered into a contract. And this would include, obviously, that the product complied with your reasonable expectations. And your reasonable expectations will be changed if you've got a written warranty that puts limitations on your product. Is basically determined by juries. These are uncertain. You know, average qualities, it's uncertain, and extent and length of time. How long is something supposed to be of average quality? How long, on average, do cars last? Some people keep cars a long, long time. Others don't. Therefore, sellers often exclude them by an express warranty. Express warranty will usually say in a car how long the warranty is: 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 3 years, 1 year, and so that limits their liability to that first year. After the first year, you're going to be on your own for fixing and repairing the car. With electronic goods, a lot of people will say that oftentimes they'll try to convince you to buy an extended warranty. Some people think it's worthwhile. Other people think, well, if it's an electronic good, if there's something wrong with it, it'll probably show up in that first year, and therefore buying the extended warranty is probably a waste of time because you're going to get it fixed before that first year is up. Of course, that assumes that you use it. And if you buy products and you let them sit on the shelf and you don't bring them out till a year later, you might be surprised. So anyway, don't do that. Anyway, they're determined by juries, and that's important because they are vague. Therefore, sellers often exclude them because who's on the jury? The jury are usually going to be composed of consumers, people who might have bought the same product or could see themselves buying this product. And so their sympathies might well lie with the consumer buyer rather than the merchant seller. Okay. They can arise out of custom or course of dealing or trade usage. So, there may be some sort of standard for the products as to how long they are expected to last. And so that's the warranty of merchantability. Warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. And this warranty, the seller or lessor, if you're leasing goods, so you have warranties for lease goods also, knows the particular purpose for which the buyer, he's typically going to be a seller who's a specialty seller. He's in a special line of goods that people usually need advice in order to buy the right product, or need some advice in picking a product. You know, they may know something about the product, but they feel better going to a store where, you know, the salesman knows the products and can tell them about the qualities of the product. The buyer or lessee relies upon the expertise of the seller or lessee, therefore, and therefore you get this warranty of fitness for a particular purpose rather than the thing being fit for average purposes. It's fit for ordinary purposes. It's actually fit for a very specialized purpose. Like I said, snow skiing maybe, or part for your car. When you're playing tennis, maybe you want to get certain products. Auto parts stores, specialty stores such as sports stores, and businesses holding out that they can assist buyers in a selection of a product. Eyeglasses, right? Next slide. Overlapping warranties. Warranties are treated as cumulative except where they are inconsistent. So if you get a warranty, basically it's treated as being cumulative except where they are inconsistent. And reconciling the inconsistent warranties, how do you reconcile them? Supposing that you're told one thing by the salesman, and the something else is in the express warranty, and so you have maybe an implied warranty even. Okay, usually you don't get those if you got a written warranty. Like I say, usually the warranties are written to exclude that. But if somehow they mess up and they don't effectively write the right wording into the contract, and they don't exclude this liability, it could be an issue. So whether or not what the salesman said or what the implied warranty was applies, or whether the wording that's in the writing. Oftentimes, maybe within the contract itself, there might be some inconsistency. So you might say one thing on one page and something that's entirely different on another page. That shouldn't happen, but it could be that way. If in fact that's what happens, if the written warranty says one thing in one page and then it contradicts that in another page, the document is going to be, when it's read by a judge, is going to be viewed as favoring the party who did not write the contract. But you should always read your contracts, and I myself prefer not to have to litigate things. And when I'm buying things, I want to not have to go to court for it. It might be easier for me than a lot of people, because I have friends who will go to court for me, lawyers who I know, being a lawyer, and we do this for one another. And there's oftentimes just courtesy. Oftentimes it just takes a letter from us and we get what we want. But so reconciling the inconsistent warranty. The express warranty displaces except and displaces implied warranties except the warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. So the warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. If you went into a store and you bought the wrong skis because that's what the salesman sold you, maybe a salesman didn't even ask you. You just told him you want skis. You just pulled some skis down, didn't ask you what kind of skis. He says, "Well, here's your skis," and they're the wrong skis. He's got to ask you that question because it's a sporting goods store. He should know, as a salesman in that store, that people need to be given the right thing, and he needs to ask. And this holds true in, if you're going to buy motorcycle parts or you're going to buy car parts. For instance, one case involved a man who needed a tire for his motorbike. It was a dirt bike, and this particular bike, the one wheel was, I say it's the front wheel. The front wheel was larger than the back wheel. Okay, don't ask me why that was, but that's the way it was. There was a difference in size, and the salesman, when he sent the man who owned the bike sent his younger brother to buy a part for him, buy the tire, and I guess he thought it'd be okay that they would give him the right part. And the salesman sold him the wrong tire. Well, the thing about it is that you could fit the wrong tire on that front wheel, or on the back wheel, whichever one it was. You could fit the wrong tire, but since it was larger than it should have been, when they took it out on the dirt trail, it popped off, and they had a wreck. And not only was the motorcycle damaged, but there were injury to the rider. The sporting goods store, or the motorcycle shop, then becomes responsible for all those damages. So it's important, if you're actually in that kind of business, to ask people. If they don't know enough, to ask themselves. And you have to ask them sometimes very specific questions. What kind of bike is it? Okay, is it for a front tire or a wheel tire? Because we know that in this particular one, looking down here at the manual that I check all the time, I can see here that it's got two different tires that go on it, and I want to make sure you get the right one. In most cases, oftentimes people will find it out before any damage happens, and they'll just bring it back and they'll exchange it for the right one. But sometimes it could go terribly wrong. Sometimes that could mean the product will be damaged, but the wrong oil in the machine, product can be damaged. Sometimes people using a product may be damaged if in fact that's the case. Samples displace inconsistent general descriptions. Okay, so I mentioned that earlier. So basically you're going to be held to the sample. And same with models and samples both. They displace inconsistent general descriptions. So general description describes how the product generally works, but not in detail, maybe with not enough specification. And you might need to be expert in elevators or whatever it is that you're buying in order to know whether or not you're getting what you need. Technical specifications displace both samples and general descriptions. And we're going to now talk about other aspects of performance of a contract. Warranties is one aspect of performance. A dealership has an obligation to comply with the warranties. Sometimes they'll make it difficult for people. I've had difficulty with certain sellers. I remember one time going in to have my car repaired, and I said, I've been told by an amateur mechanic that it was I needed an engine part, and I said the engine is covered by this warranty, and it's still under warranty, so it won't cost me anything to get it repaired at your shop, right? Because you're one of the dealerships that is with that particular company. And he said, oh no, the engine is covered, but not the parts. And I said, I looked him in the eye, I said, well, this is a basic logical fallacy. If you cover something, you cover the engine, then you cover all the parts of the engines. And I'm sure I'll win this if I take it to court, and I will take it to court if you charge me for these things. I'm going to leave it here for you to repair, and I expect you not to charge me. I don't want to take you to court because I don't want to waste my time with having to do that. But you should also know, in that particular state at that time, actually there would be damages for misrepresentation like that in the sale of a product, so that I would get some multiple of, I think it might have been 3 times what the cost would have been. So if they charged me like $50 for that part and the installation of that part, then maybe I could get $150 from them and not have to pay $50, but actually get money back. Performance of a contract, one thing you should know in general about contracts is that every contract imposes an obligation of good faith. Good faith is defined as honesty and fact. A merchant must also conform to their performance to reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. That's part of good faith. So, they're supposed to act like a reasonable merchant would in regard to how they deal with their customers. Good faith is a question for the jury. Again, there aren't too many merchant sellers in there. There might be some people who work for a merchant seller. They may have some sympathy for the product, for their merchant that they're selling for, but then again, they are also consumers too, right? So they may see themselves as buying this product. Good faith is a question for the jury. Good faith requires reasonable efforts to perform and cooperate and communicate. So it's the old common law standard of reasonable efforts, which is oftentimes what you find in law. Tender of delivery. Basically, if seller has sold a product, he has to tender delivery, and that happens in several ways. Seller must promptly make available in the manner and time agreed upon the goods. The buyer must be given a reasonable notification of their availability. So if you buy something and you're going to pick it up, they have to call you within a reasonable time so you can go and pick it up. If no hour is specified, if no time is specified for, then delivery is at a reasonable hour is required. So again, it's reasonableness, right? Goods must be kept available for a reasonable time if you're going to pick them up. So basically, tender delivery is he's either going to hold it for your pickup, that's tendering delivery. And he has to notify you, and he has to notify you within a reasonable time of its availability. And if no hour is specified, then delivery at a reasonable hour is required. Goods must be kept available for a reasonable period of time if they're being kept. So, like I said, they either hold it or they actually deliver it, and in which case they have to deliver it within a reasonable time. And usually they'll tell you some sort of estimate, maybe, if not a specific day in which you can expect delivery. And maybe they'll tell you that, well, our truck will deliver it on this day. They'll call you ahead of time to make sure you're there, and and so be expecting them. So that's a tender of delivery. Conforming goods. Goods that are exactly as promised and described in the contract are conforming goods. That's important because you're buying a good, you expect it to conform to the descriptions that are made and the promises are made to it. So we talked about warranty already, and so the goods should conform and be exactly as you've been told they would be, as you've been conforming. So either you've got a written warranty, in which case you're going to be bound by its terms, or you might have some sort of description. Maybe, like I said, maybe oftentimes it's just a description on the box, which is still a written warranty because it's in writing. Okay, or maybe it's a promise made by the seller or the seller's salesman. Conforming goods. Also, conforming goods, in some cases, we also talk about conforming delivery. So conforming goods need to be delivered within a reasonable time. So that's called a conforming delivery. And if they tell you it's going to be delivered by such and such date, then you ought to be able to count on them being there. And there could be damages in some cases. You have to show that you were damaged. The interesting thing about contracts, as opposed to torts, is torts will give you damages that are not contemplated at the time. Nobody buys a car and expects to have a wreck and get killed in it. Nobody expects the brakes to go bad and to have this terrible accident. On the other hand, with a contract, you're entitled to have your reasonable expectations met. And so you basically need to read the contract carefully and see what it is that you can expect from this product in terms of performance. You need to maybe ask the seller about the product. You maybe look at his ads, keep his ads. In some cases, you keep boxes. If you buy shingles, shingles are going to last 20, 25, or 30 years. You maybe want to keep the shingles because on the boxes, oftentimes on the shingles, there's going to be a statement of the warranty. And so you can show them that you relied upon that in buying this product. And you do have to, as far as warranty is concerned, you do have to be made aware of that in order to say that you were relying upon it. Perfect tender rule. If the goods or their delivery fails to conform in any respect, then the entire shipment is rejected, and any part except the rest, or the buyer has the option of rejecting the entire shipment, or rejecting any part and accepting the rest, or accept the entire shipment. That's his option. He doesn't have to insist upon his right to have the product be perfectly performing. This is the rule that is invoked. So, but the next slide talks about the right to cure. If a seller sends and ships goods that are non-conforming, when the buyer gets the goods, he typically needs to inform the seller of the nonconformity and of his intent to reject the goods. The seller then has a right to repair, adjust, or replace the nonconforming goods if he can still do so within a reasonable period of time. So in terms of time, where the goods are supposed to be delivered as a particular time, that could be very critical, certainly in businesses. Let's say you own a hotel and you are wanting to put in the AAA book and in other ads that you have Wi-Fi, okay? Nowadays, of course, I think most people assume that hotels are going to have that, but it's always nice when you're picking your hotel to look and see that it does actually have it. And so, you know, so basically, if this was a new hotel and they were building this, or they were an old hotel that was putting in Wi-Fi for the first time, that delivery date might be very critical. They'll want the Wi-Fi to be, let's say they're on the road to 75 going down to Florida. Okay, they'll want that Wi-Fi to be installed and in place, and so they want to receive it. Maybe their people will install it. Maybe the company will install it. They will certainly want to have it in place, and so it has to be delivered within a certain time so they get it. And if it's not, then they might be suing the manufacturer, the seller, for doesn't have to be a manufacturer, it could be a middleman, for the fact that they maybe can calculate that perhaps they've lost a certain number of patrons, that people came in and say, oh, you don't have Wi-Fi? Too bad, we're going somewhere else. Even if they had, say they had made a reservation, they could still do that. They could say, well, we picked this hotel because you have a reservation. We're not going to stay here because you have Wi-Fi. So we have this reservation because you have Wi-Fi. And if you don't have Wi-Fi, we're not going to stay here even for one night. And so a certain number of people would, a certain loss of revenue could be attributed to that loss. So they'll need to keep track of that. Or, have some way of at least estimating what it is that the jury is going to accept. The seller has a right to repair, adjust, or replace the non-conforming goods if he can do so. What does that mean? That means he can ship non-conforming goods. In some cases, it's not going to be a big deal. Time is maybe not critical. Or, and if time is critical, oftentimes you would want to tell the seller that time is of the essence. This old phrase. It's boilerplate in some contracts. Some sellers some buyers will put that in their contract, insist that time is very important. As long as you tell them that time is important, that you need it by such and such date, and typically you will tell them also why you need it. So you're a hotel, you say, I'm buying this Wi-Fi, I'm going to install it in my hotel, I'm going to buy it for all these rooms, and I'm going to need that by very beginning of spring. They say I need it by April the 1st. I want to have it in there, okay? So I can catch even early people who are going south for summer vacations. And therefore, if in fact it's not in by that date, it could be critical. So you need to inform, in this case, ordinary contracts, you don't need typically to inform them. So unlike where you're buying goods that are fit for a particular purpose, where you have a particular need for something, you typically would need to, in order to recover the damages, all the damages that you would be entitled to, you'll want to tell them that there are certain considerations that affect how much you're going to lose. It's going to affect your pocketbook. It's going to affect you as a business. You're going to lose money if they don't get it there by a certain time. And so they'll probably be happy to give the order and want to comply with your request. But if you don't do that, they can, and if you do that, it may still be able to conform. Let's say it was something was wrong with these Wi-Fi's, that some part of it, some knob that has to be turned, was missing, and needs a knob to replace it, and it's not a typical knob, they can go down to a hardware store and get it. So the manufacturer might fly somebody out there to put it in that same day that they were supposed to be delivered. So they call them up right away. And basically, the buyer then has an obligation to allow them to do so. So we have the perfect tender rule in our Uniform Commercial Code, which is governing sales of contracts, the contracts of goods. You know, and that's part of that law, and actually even part of the old common law was this right to cure. The seller has a right to repair, adjust, or replace non-conforming goods if he can do so. So that basically would be requiring somebody to go down there and complete that product the way it was supposed to be completed, or fix it. Even where the time to perform has passed, the seller may have further reasonable time if, when he tendered, he reasonably believed they conformed. So again, this addresses the fact that you need to tell him that it's very important that you get this product on time. Installment contracts. Any one installment can be rejected separately, but only if the nonconformity substantially impairs the value of the installment. So the entire installment. You know, so a lot of times we're talking about contracts that are deliveries are made in stages. Like if you're buying chickens for soup to be made in a restaurant, you might have a contract that says that you will get the soup every month on a certain day, and so those are separate installments. So you have one contract, but there are 3, 4, 5, any number of deliveries that are going to be made on a certain day every month for the next 6 months, or a year, or 3 years, or whatever your contract says. So you can reject the entire shipment if the nonconformity substantially impairs the value of the installment. So contracts, like I said, is very limited. Contracts, unlike torts, has very limited damages. So the terms of the contract oftentimes limit how much you can recover. And they're oftentimes limited in terms of you have to show how much you were damaged. Well, you have to show that in torts too, but they're very specific in that. And sometimes there are things that the seller is not going to be responsible for. And we consumers don't necessarily like that, but sometimes those are the terms on which you can buy it from a particular seller. And if you don't like that, maybe you want to look for a different seller. And hopefully there is some other seller who meets your needs. An installment contract can be canceled unilaterally only where an installment or installments substantially impair the value of the entire contract. So that's it. We're going to continue with this discussion in the next lecture. On performance of contracts. There's still quite a bit to cover. Probably got another 15 or 20 minutes more to go on this one. Thank you.